Because Pakistan was battered by India during Operation Sindhu. 9 terror hubs in POK were blown to smithereens. Multiple air bases were attacked and at least 6 of their aircraft were down. But barely 3 months after India showed Pakistan its true place, their field marshal, or as he's known, failed marshal, is back with his fake bravado. Asim Munir, who's in the United States, went on a tirade against India. Pakistan's field marshal cried foul over the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty, saying that if India builds a dam, Pakistan will destroy it with 10 missiles. The rant didn't stop there, repeating the hollow threats which his country's politicians have been making since years now. Munir said that if Pakistan goes down, they will take half the world down with them. But the worst was yet to come. Pakistan's field marshal, in an attempt to portray his country as this great nation, ended up calling Pakistan as a dumper truck in comparison to India, a Mercedes with the pace of a Ferrari. Anyway, India has now hit back at Munir and Pakistan over nuclear sabre-rattling, calling it their stock in trade. The MEA has termed the comments as irresponsible and expressed regret over the fact that such threats were being issued from the soil of a friendly third nation. Finally, India has reiterated its stand that the country will not give in to such nuclear blackmail. Watching Pakistan use such threatening words is not a surprise. They are economically and militarily ages behind India, and that leads to this frustration. But the lack of condemnation, in fact zero, from the side of the United States is very, very surprising. Let's take a quick look at what could be some of those reasons. One is, of course, Pakistan endorsing Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. That is, of course, one thing that has been stated publicly, reiterating that now. And Pak has gone on to say that Trump has brokered the ceasefire lie has been promoted by Pakistan. They've also, in fact, signed a deal with Trump family-backed venture. This is, of course, as far as cryptocurrency is concerned. There's also a pact to purchase oil from the United States. They have refused to counter Trump's tariff tirade as well. Now, this is, of course, what has been stated by Pakistan, and these are some of the reasons that are being speculated as to why he's being feted in this manner by the US.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1, on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Let's take this across to our guest joining us. Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon is with us. He's a former GOC of the 15 Corps joining us. Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow of ORF, is with us. We also have Dr. Jeffrey Gunter, former US Ambassador, joining us. Anand Ahuja is an attorney at law and co-founder of the Indian Americans for Trump. Dr. Jeffrey Gunter, many people are not able to understand at this point of time, why there's this urgency to sort of wine and dine the Pakistan Army Chief. His second visit in 2 months, and also the fact that he uses US soil to make these kind of despicable comments against India, threatening the use of nuclear weapons. Is that something that the US is going to endorse?
Well, I think you left off something respectfully off your list, is that why is nothing coming out of the White House right now or from President Trump? Because he's actually an incredible president and a very smart guy. He's not going to react. President Trump will do things his way, on his time, and what's in the best interest of America. But also, remember, there's great strategic dialogue going on now between America and India. So many people say, is the bromance over between Modi and Trump? And I say absolutely not. This is diplomacy. We need to have frank discussions about various issues, about tariffs, let's face it, on India's agriculture, and tariffs on things that are coming into America. But the bromance is not over. I think there's a time and place where these issues will be addressed. And nuclear sabre-rattling, let's face it, we heard it from Putin recently, and that's why we readjusted our deterrent status of various weapons in the region. So I think we got to give it time.
So, Dr. Gunter, by that yardstick, you should have a problem if we are buying Russian oil then. If you're going to keep security issues and trade separate, then the same yardstick applies when it comes to India and Pakistan, if it's as the US and Russia.
Yeah, I still think that everything's going to work out fine. Look at what the field marshal was speaking to. He was speaking to a group of 100 Pakistani businessmen. What's he going to say? He's the field marshal. Is he going to say, oh, if someone tries to take us out, I'm going to mail them flowers and chocolates? Is that what you guys are expecting him to say?
Nuclear
Absolutely
war?
not.
Nuclear war? Seriously? You're actually going to condone that by saying that this is what he's expected to say. Threaten nuclear war.
This is what you see. It's
How
no
often
different.
do you
It's
see
no
world leaders do
different from
that?
any other nuclear powers. It's no different. It's the same thing we saw coming out of Russia. It's the same thing we see when we see saber-rattling out of China. It's the same thing we see around the world. And you know something? India has no better friend than America. We're having frank discussions, and it's going to be okay.
So that's why, let me bring in Sushant Sareen on that note. Sushant Sareen, it's very easy and to blame Russia, to blame China, but forget when Pakistan's doing the same thing. I mean, what explains this? Is this just positioning or taking a tough stance during the trade negotiations, as Dr. Gunter somehow seems to be suggesting, or is there more to it that meets the eye?
No, I think the Americans are back to that old mode when anything that the Pakistanis do is kosher and it's perfectly acceptable to them, and they will defend it till kingdom come. They've done it in the past. There's no big deal. Look, the Americans allowed over 3,000 Americans to be killed by the Pakistanis and couldn't do anything to them. Do you think they'll do anything in our cause? So forget about it. I don't have any expectations from the Americans to say anything or even take any position which is even remotely, principled. They've never done it in the past. I don't think they're going to do it now. So forget it if you think that the Americans, or for that matter, the Europeans, are going to, show the kind of hysterics they did when Putin did some nuclear saber-rattling. In fact, there were countries like India, which kind of, despite a close relationship with the Russians, we did not approve of it. But these guys went completely, ballistic on that. And now, just look at the silence. So one is this, I don't even want to call it hypocrisy anymore. Second, I think they're being rather presumptuous if they think that everything is hunky-dory. This is how diplomacy is run. I'm sorry, this is not how diplomacy is done. There is a certain idiom and a certain grammar of diplomacy. If you think that this is, the speaking in street language is diplomacy, then I'm sorry, it might be acceptable to people who call Donald Trump daddy, but it's not acceptable to any self-respecting person. Number three, I think the trust factor with the Americans has been shot to the ground by the Americans themselves. So even if there's some kind of a trade deal worked out, I don't see how any sensible and sober Indian can really trust the Americans and take them at face value and really consider them to be strategic partners. I don't see how that's going to be possible anymore. Fourth, on Asim Munir himself, look, his IQ is that of Sheikh Rashid. Now, I'm sure the Americans don't know anything about Pakistan, despite having dealt with them for 70 years, because all they were doing was giving money to them and not asking for anything else in return. But we look at the Pakistanis very closely, and I can tell you Asim Munir's IQ is that of Sheikh Rashid. But also Asim Munir is a man who's basically a jihadist in uniform. Now, like all Pakistanis, they will suck up to the Americans simply because they think they will get some bone from the Americans to chew on. So they will try and show themselves to be reasonableness personified. But we know what their true worth is, what their mindset is. And I can tell you one thing. General Dhillon is out here. The Pakistan army is not the old British Indian army. They might be wearing those suits and the uniforms of the old British Indian army. This is an Islamized jihadist army with nuclear weapons and threatening not just India, Madhav. You make that mistake. He's threatening to obliterate half the world. Yeah. So the Americans are very comfortable with it. Good for them. We are not going to be taken in by this nuclear blackmail anymore. So if they want to try and destroy one dam of ours, which we built, we'll destroy their entire irrigation system, including all the dams that they have built.
Yeah, you want to respond to that, Anand Ahuja? Because, this is, it's amazing. It's amazing that here you have a person who's threatening to blow up half the world. No commentary at all coming in from the US administration, the same country from which he's speaking. It's not often that such kind of threats come in from a third country, and that to a country which has good relations with both of them.
It's coming from an
First of all, I totally agree with what Ambassador Gunter mentioned. There are two reasons why Trump has not made any statement, which I personally believe. Number one, because his focus right now is on having his summit with Russia. So he's more busy right now. Secondly, I personally believe that for Trump, any dog that barks, he's not going to make, as a president of the United States, any attention to that. You have to keep in mind, I personally believe this was the most stupid and irresponsible statement of General Asim Munir, unnecessarily inviting international atomic energy agencies to come and investigate what's going on in Pakistan and to either directly or indirectly have control over the United States nuclear arsenals. Somehow,
really?
I don't agree with, I'm sorry?
The IAEA is going to go to Pakistan now. Is that what you're saying?
You have to understand, if USA can go in Iraq for weapons of mass destruction, whether they were there or not, do you think that United States, especially under Trump, when Trump's emphasis right now is to establish peace in the world, whether it's in Middle East, whether it's between Ukraine and Russia, Trump's focus is basically to establish peace in the world, and that's one of the promises he made to American voters.
In North Korea, they should have gone all across the world by now, all of these nuclear agencies. But logic.
At least Trump is making an effort. Secondly, you have to understand, nuclear threat is easy to make, but I think it's the most stupid threat, because nuclear environmental issues do not need visa to cross borders. So environmental effects are going, whether the bomb is thrown on India or in Pakistan or Iraq or Iran.
I wish these pearls of wisdom were coming out of the US State Department as well. But let me bring in General Dhillon on that. General Dhillon, it's all very well to denounce what Asim Munir is saying, as what the last panelist has done, but then you have people who are justifying the Trump regime's complete silence on these ridiculous provocative comments coming in from the Pakistan Army Chief, someone who's known as, Sushant Sareen was telling us a short while earlier, to not just promote the jihadis, but also Pakistan's own track record when it comes to the nuclear weapons is well known to the world.
Good evening, Madhav, and good evening to our fellow panelists and viewers. As everyone has brought out, see, this statement by the Pakistani Army Chief on a foreign soil, and that too on a foreign soil which is a democracy and which is a friend of India, so to say. So it's the most irresponsible statement coming from any nuclear power official. I'm saying official because if it was not a premeditated statement, it was off the cuff remark as it was being made out to be speaking to some 100-odd Pakistani diaspora people, then either the home country, that is the Pakistan, or the host country, that is the United States of America, both of them should have rebutted it, both of them should have condemned it, and both of them should have spoken something about it. Since it has not come from either of the two, that means it was a very well pre-planned, approved statement. Now coming to the accuracies of the statement. Now his statement that he will destroy half the world, just for benefit of your viewers, I would just reiterate India's nuclear policy, which is stated nuclear policy in a nutshell. The first point is India will not use nuclear weapons against non-nuclear states. Second is India will not be the first one to strike. And third is when India strikes the second one, it will be so massive that the damage will be unimaginable. Now let me amplify the first strike. First strike is, as we all know, nuclear weapons are kept at, the components are kept at different places which are segregated in time and space from each other. Basically for no accident or everything should not get destroyed in one go. When the nation takes a decision to launch a nuclear weapon, these components are picked up from place A, place B, place C and brought to a place from where the launch will take place. And this is called mating, or some people call it coupling or joining. Different countries call it by different names. As India, when we say first strike we will not do, moment we get the intelligence about the mating taking place, we consider that as a first strike. We will not give a chance to the enemy to strike and destroy our population centers or military installations, and then we go in for a second strike. The intent and the actions to assemble the weapon for strike will be taken as a first strike, and those will be destroyed in situation there and wherever else we want to go as a second strike. So this must be very clear to Asim Munir. Now coming to the dams, as Mr. Sushant Sareen also has said, if he feels he can hit missiles on our dams, Now, why couldn't his missiles hit our military installations or population centers during Operation Sindhu? When our missiles hit their terror bases, our missiles hit their air bases, and they could do nothing about it. They could not intercept even one of them. And none of the missiles could reach Indian intended targets. Now, he's boasting about those missiles. Second point about hitting the dams. Does he think we don't know where Marala Headworks is? Does he think we don't know where Mangla Dam is? Does he think we don't know where Sakar Barrage is? And he knows exactly our missiles are more penetrative and more accurate and more precise. So these things must be taken in actual context. And their nuclear bluff must be called. It has been called in Operation Sindhu. It must be called again. Dumper, I think that was the most stupid example one could give of a dump truck versus a shining Mercedes.
Ridiculous.
It came from the heart. Uske dil se baat nikal gayi wo.
Yes, truth has a strange way of surfacing. But Dr. Jeffrey Gunter, while perhaps you may not be surprised that the Trump administration is ignoring the comments by the Pakistan Army chief, it is surprising that they've forgotten what Hillary Clinton had to say as far as Pakistan is concerned. And when in 2011 she said you can't keep snakes in your backyard and expect them only to bite your neighbors. Have you forgotten where Osama bin Laden was found? It was very much in Pakistan, and a military town at that, Abbottabad.
Absolutely not. But also remember, if you're quoting Hillary Clinton, myself, as a former Trump U.S. ambassador, I don't consider your source reliable, credible, or anything along those lines. And remember, President Trump has dedicated this term to being a peacemaker. And if you don't agree with me, go ask the great people in Armenia, the great people in Azerbaijan, go ask all the 4 signatories of the Abraham Accords. And let's face it, he's not like our great guest spoke earlier, Arnand. He's not going to react. He's going to react at his time and his place. And this is saber-rattling. There's no doubt about it. This is nuclear saber-rattling. No doubt about it. But believe it or not, it's diplomacy. There's strategic discussions going on right now. And it's all going to work out, guys. It absolutely will.
Well, we don't know if it's really going to work out. When Russia puts out a tweet and you send nuclear submarines there, but when someone threatens nuclear war, you completely ignore it. So I don't know if it's really going to work out, and if this is really what US believes is the recipe for peace, by allowing generals and army chiefs to come out to their country and make nuclear threats to other countries. I mean, is that really something that's a recipe for peace, Sushant Sareen?
No, but it's the time and the place, just so you know. We're not saying never. We're saying the time and the place will be determined by the President of the United States.
Okay. Sushant Sareen.
So look, number one, I think many of these so-called peace accords which are being signed are not being signed because these are genuine peace accords. These are something that people are saying that, okay, fine, there is this guy who's desperate for a Nobel Peace Prize. Let's just sign this. Maybe it'll give us some better tariffs, something else. And let's be done with it. 3.5 years later, we'll see. These wars do not end simply because somebody threatens you with tariffs. There are temporary truces and temporary understandings which you say, okay, fine, for right now, we are not going to do anything, because the fundamental problems which have caused those particular conflicts have not been addressed. So one is, so they can keep blowing their own trumpet and keep saying that Trump's trumpet is the loudest and he is working out very well. But let's wait and see. Let history be the judge of that. I agree only on the Abraham Accords bit, which have so far at least with a couple of countries, the UAE in particular and a couple of others, which have been successful. But for the rest, I'm rather skeptical. The second thing is, the only thing which Asim Munir said, which had some semblance to reality, was to compare India to a shiny new Mercedes or a Ferrari, because he was confused that India maybe transformed from a Mercedes to a Ferrari, and Pakistan to a dumper truck filled with excrement, or was it gravel? I don't know.
Gravel, yeah.
That is what Pakistan is, right? And if Trump wants to, use that dumper truck for whatever reason he wants to use it, he's more than welcome. The Americans used it for 70 years, filled it with excrement anyways. So they are most welcome to do it. Finally, Mr. Ahuja is very valiantly trying to protect or defend Mr. Trump. But it is very clear from what Mr. Ahuja is saying, he doesn't understand the first thing either about strategy or about nuclear policy or about what the IAEA does. But, he's an American, so he's welcome to whatever he's saying.
All right. Mr. Ahuja, you respond to that. And also, many here see this as an admission of what Khwaja Asif said a few months ago when the conflict was at its peak, that we've been doing the dirty work for US for the past 3 decades. So this is essentially a reward for that, isn't it?
To be honest with you, Mr. Sareen is very well-established, knowledgeable person, and I have full respect for him. But it makes me laugh when he says that Donald Trump is interested in establishing peace in the world just because he's interested in getting a Nobel Peace Prize. This is laughable.
Hasn't he said it? He said it himself on record that I deserve a Nobel Prize. Hasn't he said it?
No, that is different thing. Deserving.
How is that different?
Claiming is different thing than doing something with that particular objective. He was trying to establish peace, and he is still trying to establish peace in the world. Not within just one motive that he should get Nobel Peace Prize. If Nobel Peace Prize he gets, nothing like that. It's a cherry on the top. But generally he's trying, and he wishes that peace is established in the world. Secondly,
but it's a strange way of establishing peace if you're going to allow people to make nuclear threats on your country. That's a very strange way indeed.
I don't know why Trump's tariff policy about India is just being considered as Trump not being a friend of India. First of all, tariff policy is a reciprocal tariff policy. Secondly, it's not only India. There are 86 other countries also who have been imposed tariff. There has been consistent United States tariff deficit for more than $1 trillion. We are forgetting that it's a Trump who handed over through Rana to India.
Who pays that $1 trillion? It's the citizens of America, the consumers who are paying that, and also the fact that China, which buys the same Russian oil, incidentally from Iran also, is paying much less in terms of tariffs. So the hypocrisy is pretty much out there, Mr. Ahuja.
But isn't it that Trump handed over through Rana to India? You could not get through Rana during when Democrats were in power. Trump, the first thing he did, he handed over you.
That is a completely different issue, sir.
Pardon?
There are agreements that exist, aren't there? With both the countries.
Is it because of the agreement you got through Rana, or it was a goodwill gesture on part of Donald Trump?
You want to negate these agreements?
When Mr. Modi was here and there was joint press conference, and at that time Trump announced that I'm going to hand over.
To the best of my understanding, this is what happens in diplomacy. But let me bring in General Dhillon on that. General Dhillon, you want to respond to Mr. Ahuja?
Now you are talking about diplomacy. So if it is a diplomacy, then it's a diplomacy in all fronts. You cannot say diplomacy in one area, diplomacy not in another area.
Exactly. So if you have a problem with India and Russia relations, then India can also take out its own problems with your US and Pakistan relations. There has to be an even deal.
With due respect, isn't that India also to decide whether India wants to be China or India wants to be the USA? In BRICS, India is with China. In Quad, India is with USA.
Exactly. So if you're going to push India, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. That if you're going to push India away, and if you're going to push India towards the BRICS grouping, then that's completely on the United States. India has been pretty clear as far as the negotiations are concerned. If you're going to push India away, then that's going to work in a different way. Sushant, you want to quickly respond to that, please?
Yeah, but I don't know where to start. Number one, India was a member of the BRICS for a very long time. The Americans have been in bed with the Pakistanis. We never said anything to it. So if we have some dealings, don't the Americans trade with the Chinese? Don't the Americans trade, or the Europeans trade with the Russians? And look, the reciprocal tariffs, we are more than open to negotiate. Like the Americans have certain red lines, we have certain red lines. We have to protect our own people also. But I think, ask any trade economist, ask any trade negotiator, India went much, much, much further than anybody expected India to go. And yet, to see that not only am I going to impose 25% tariff, I'm going to add a penalty because you are buying oil, which the Europeans are buying. He doesn't impose a penalty on them. The Turks are buying, the Chinese are buying. On that, he's silent, and somebody like Ahuja is telling us what we should do. Listen, man, you are an American, you talk for America. Don't give me advice. I never said what India should do. I never said. No. Seriously.
Misinformation. You are I never
You should listen to these people. They're not worth anything.
Okay, one by one. Mr. Ahuja, very quickly.
academics very quite well, but the
No,
reality
I
is
never
what
said
we're
what
seeing
India
here
should do.
is-
I said what is India's policy.
One by one, please. One by one. We can't hear any of you because you're all talking together. I'm going to get in a quick comment from Dr. Gunter, and then I go across to General Dillon. Dr. Gunter.
Yeah, the reality is our respected senior fellow panelist sounds like a typical elitist here in America. And he talks about his great panels and the great people and the great diplomats. What Donald Trump is concerned about are the people of America and putting those individuals first. And when you sit there and criticize the peace deals that President Trump is making just to get an award or just, because of some tariff negotiation, it's not only foolish, but it's factually wildly incorrect. And if you don't agree with me, go ask the people in the UAE.
But he said it, hasn't he? That he should be getting the Nobel Prize. So there's nothing left to the imagination, is there?
The issue is, like our other esteemed guest said, it's the cherry on top. What Donald Trump is concerned about is making peace in the world and helping individual men, not academic personnel, who are so concerned about what diplomacy means.
Okay. General Dillon, please.
Two quick points. One is the gentleman who spoke before me just now. He said Donald Trump is doing it for the people of America, for the interest of people of America. And if Indian government is doing something for the interest of people of India, then what's wrong with it? If we are buying oil at a reasonable price and giving it to our people at a reasonable price in these difficult times, isn't our government working for the interest of the people of India? So it's similar thing. Second point is, the point which got discussed about Tahir Rana and all. Today, the world faces two major threats. One is terrorism, second is nuclear weapons. And both, most irresponsible state which is holding both of them is Pakistan. Starting from 9/11, to name a place where terrorism happened, Pakistani trace is there. And here, if Tahir Rana has been given back to India, I can assure you, world will be a little better place to stay once India goes through its processes and actions. So terrorism, Pakistan is the fountainhead.
Absolutely.
And nuclear weapons, the Pakistan wants to bring down half the world.
Absolutely.
Still, no responsible people in the whole world.
Yeah.
Even if that half world has condemned it.
Well, if Pakistan's being used for leverage as far as the tariff talks are concerned, it's a very unfortunate strategy by the United States is all we can say. But we'll have to leave it there. Lieutenant General KJS Dillon, Sushant Sareen, Dr. Jeffrey Gunter and Anand Ahuja, thanks so much for joining us this evening.